it was the recruiting era for me when I started becoming like the Navy SEALs needed more blacks in the SEAL teams. And that's what people don't understand. Like why did you become a recruiter in the SEAL teams? I was one of the few black guys, and I'd already done Badwater. So I got a little bit, small bit of notoriety for doing Badwater. And so the Navy SEALs were like, oh my God, we could use this guy to try to get the 1% of the African Americans in Navy SEALs up to maybe 2%. And so I hit the road and started doing that. But I also I'm not a big guy on social media. So I was actually happy to kind of pull away from it. I'm just not big on that stuff. Even today, I'm just not a big fan of it, man. I'm a big introvert. I get a lot of my strength from being introverted. And going out there and doing what I do is all this is very difficult for me, man. All of it. I was very ashamed of my life story for a long time. I didn't want to go out and tell anybody shit about me. So that's why I had two people. I created one David Goggins and one Goggins.
Right.
And I didn't want people to know that I had all these issues. But after a while, people start to give you these different taglines. Like you're superhuman, you're amazing. I'm like, you fuckers don't know anything about me, man. I'm this insecure kid. And I started realizing there's a lot of people out here who are going through a lot of problems that I once tapped into. I had a whole bunch of issues growing up. And, I felt compelled to just, you know what? Mm-hmm. You gotta start sharing this stuff, man, because people see where you're at today. They see where you're at today. They see the man you are today, this rock hard human being. Show these people where you come from.
Right.
Show these people it's possible. I was born in Buffalo. My dad was owned skating rinks and owned bars. And he was a very insecure guy, and he was an alcoholic. He used to get women for favors. So my dad, I'm not saying he was a pimp. I always say he's a pimp because that's how I look at it. My mom said the proper way to say this is that your dad used to get women and he would exchange women for favors. So basically, that's my dad. He was a guy that didn't care much about anything but himself. So that's who he was. And he was a perfect person for psychological warfare. The beatings were horrible, but the mind torture was the worst. Mm-hmm. He got so deep in my head as a young kid, and that really fucks up your foundation. When you're born, man, there's some sensitive years in there, man, where your brain starts to develop and starts to give you self-esteem, courage, confidence, all those things. And my dad was stripping that away from everybody. And when you see your mom, the worst thing to do is when you see your mom getting beat senseless at a young kid. Mm-hmm. That shit scars you permanently. She was 19 when she went there, and she was an innocent 19-year-old, and she came from a great family, and she met this man, and totally just it was brutal. It was very sadistic the way she was tortured by him, and the way my brother and myself were, and that broke me and my brother up. My brother loved my father a lot. He saw something very different than I saw, because whenever my mom and I would get beat, my brother, I'm not calling him a coward by any means, he handled it very different than I did. He would go in his room. He didn't want to see the beatings. I would protect my mother. So in that, I saw a lot more of the violence. I was trying to protect her. In me trying to protect her, I really got beat. Mm-hmm. So when you're constantly in that battle, in that struggle, and your brother's going in a different room because he didn't want any part of this shit. He hated it, and he loved family. He loves family. And I became the person like, hey man, I'm not about it. And that was hard for an 8-year-old kid, because when we moved to that small town of Brazil, Indiana, I had a learning disability. I was stuttering. I was battling so much shit that I never even told my mom about, because she was battling her own demons. So at 8 years old, I'm looking for comfort, and I'm like, hey, don't bother your mom with shit. You were not the man of the house. And I started becoming real protective of my mother at a young age. So whatever you're going through, man, you're on your fucking own. You're not gonna tell your mom shit. And she ended up finding out later through the school systems and through me failing and through me, all these issues I went through. She found out a lot, but I kept as much as I could from her, man. And that really was a hard task for me to raise yourself mentally when you're already in the deepest, darkest dungeon of all time. And I think that's where I started really creating myself. I had to really start creating a certain pattern, a certain process, a certain kind of indestructible toolbox to handle my life. And I tell people, while you're hearing this, I know you guys have already forgotten about how I came up. don't forget the torture I endured mentally and physically in my own mind, going through all this shit. So don't ever forget that. So people forget that so quickly when they get to that 7, 8, 9, 10 chapters. When I talk to people, like, I see where I'm at today, but I know where I come from. And it's kind of hard to almost separate that. I'm almost, not in a way I'm kissing my own ass, but I'm amazed at what a human being can actually do. So when I start talking to myself in the third person, it's strictly because I know that I literally made this human being out of just like a whole bunch of scraps. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't, I wasn't a mechanic. I wasn't a carpenter. So I didn't know how to do any of this shit. Mm-hmm. I wasn't trained in how to build a human being from nothing. Like my mom didn't train me. My dad didn't train me. Life didn't train me. Well, life did train me. Yeah. Life did train me, correction. And I started putting this scrap metal together. I'm like, I wonder what the fuck's gonna happen. The first year I tried to do is all fucked up. And after a while, I started learning more and more and more through pain and suffering. I started learning so much about stuff. Before I knew it, man, I built this beautiful car. And I'm like, how the fuck did I do that? And I knew how, and I know how to do it because I have all the tools. Through all the failure I went through trying to build this person who's Goggins. Mm-hmm. Well, everything I do, I try to do my very best. And now that I'm out here trying to share this story with people, I want to be so real and so fucking authentic to the point where it was embarrassing to me. Mm-hmm. As I was writing some stuff and I was giving it to Adam and we were going back and forth, I'm like, man, I was talking to my fiance, do I really want people to fucking know this about me? I had to show people I was human. People didn't think I was human. Mm-hmm. They thought I came from outer space, man, from some spacecraft and shit, and landed down here and just formed Goggins from the rocks and the soul of the earth. No, that's not how it is, man. So I said, I'm gonna share a secret with you all. Looking in the mirror at yourself, because I did a really good job by creating this guy I am now. So I can just go by and just live by this guy here. This is who I am. And you said it perfectly there. The one thing that made me who I am today is being vulnerable. It's breaking myself down to the absolute rock bottom and being able to tell people who I am. And that's how I fixed it. Literally, being able to look somebody in the eye and say, you know what, man, I have a whole bunch of character problems, character flaws. I've lied about this. I've cheated here. I'm insecure here. This isn't the real me. I lied to you about that. I wanted your acceptance in life. All those things happen, but the thing about it is that we get judged so quickly by who we are. We don't know. We don't go to where it happened. Life created this person, me. Life created me to be this fucked up person that I was back in the day. And I had to realize, man, that's okay, man. It's not my fault. Now I gotta go back and fix this shit though. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this isn't your fault, why you do some things you do, why you feel the way you feel. But no one's coming back to save your ass. You have to go back to where the shit started, wherever that place is for everybody, and have the courage to go back there and start fixing what broke you. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was like, hey, I'm fucked up. I'm gonna go back and fix this though. Yeah. And what's funny about it is that as you're trying to fix yourself and dig yourself out of this deep hole that life, society, and you helped also, those people who you saw down there in that hole who were there with you, who were your friends and people who you counted on, because you meet the people in the same situation that you're in life. When you come from a small town and you come from a place that a lot of people don't want to come out of it and get out of it, and all you want to do is become somebody, small town mentality is a real mentality. You've got to be able to get out and let your mind see open-mindedness. Because a small town, what it does to you is it closes your mind. Completely closes your mind. Not everybody. This isn't everybody. A lot of people. You have to be able to go out there and create open-mindedness. You need space. You need space to see the world. Like a lot of racism, a lot of ignorance in the world, it comes from people not being out and seeing other things, seeing other people, seeing all kind of shit. That's why we judge so harshly, because our minds are so closed to the reality of life. Period.